Hello, everybody. Cliff Yankovich from the Lowell Ledger at the beautiful studios at the high school. Joining me today is Charlie West, the general manager of our very own award-winning electric utility provider, Lowell Light Power. Charlie came to Lowell in 2020 with his family to take the helm there. Mr. West, how are things going for you and your family? You moved here from Tennessee. How you liking the winters?
Well, first, thanks for having me, Cliff. I always love the opportunity to talk about what we do at Light and Power. And yeah, we moved here from Tennessee. It's definitely been a big move, but we've really enjoyed it. The whole family has loved it. We found home. We're here to stay, and the kids we've got two kids, a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're both in the Lowell schools, and we love the Michigan outdoors, and the winters are very much a change, but I was given some very good advice very early on.
What was that?
Find a winter hobby.
Oh, okay.
So we did. Buy the appropriate gear to stay warm. In Tennessee, we just kind of got by.
Right.
Here, you don't just get by. You don't just throw a sweatshirt on and get by. So we've invested in the right clothes, and we've come to really enjoy being outside. But our big winter indoor hobby is we go to a lot of Griffins games. So we managed to find the indoor winter hobby. So it's been a great move. It's really been a great move.
I've been to tons of meetings with you, and I've listened to you talk about all kinds of things when it comes to electric utilities. Just on a personal note, what kind of schooling and training do you have to go through? I mean, was this a career path for you? Did you think, I want to run a public utility, or how did you get here?
I'm still figuring it out, I think. No, it's not a course that they teach in college. It's not like you can go to school and say, hey, I'm going to be a general manager of a public utility. So I got my undergrad at Denison University in Ohio, actually in environmental studies. So absolutely nothing to do with the electric industry.
Yeah, but these days with the mandates to go,
absolutely. So it happens that I got out of college, finished my undergrad in 2008. If we can all recall 2008, the economy was booming, and there were tremendous job offers all over the place. No, the economy wasn't obviously at a great time. And
I was going to say, which 2008 was that?
Different 2008, parallel universe. But no, the economy wasn't great. Got out of college, and I had a family member say, look at the utility industry. We were in an economic downturn at the time, and it seemed very attractive because even in an economic downturn, people still need essentials, and electricity is very much an essential part of everybody's life. So I got into GIS, Geographic Information Systems. I essentially managed projects to create digital GPS-based maps of electric utilities.
Wow.
Got my introduction to that at Denison through some coursework in the environmental studies program, and that ultimately I made a lot of connections. I traveled all over the East Coast working for different utilities, managing projects, got the opportunity to see a lot. That was a ton of fun. I've worked in quite a few different states, spent a lot of time all over the eastern half of the country, and knew that I really enjoyed the electric industry, but also didn't enjoy traveling and spending 300 or so nights a year in a hotel. I'd made some really good connections with some different utilities, and utility that I'd done some work for in rural West Tennessee had called and said, hey, we could really use your skill set. So joined down in Paris, Tennessee, took over their mapping program, and somehow ended up in the engineering department. First to admit, I'm not an engineer, but I ended up doing a lot of work in the engineering department, and was fortunate enough to have some really good leaders, really good mentors that saw a good connection between the engineering side of electric utility and the business side. Because ultimately we are operating a business, and the more efficiently we can operate a business, the better electric rates and the better service we can provide our customers. So I got into this unique spot where I was blending the business side of things with the engineering side of things. I was doing a lot of rate analysis and working with key accounts and just trying to bridge bridge the gap between our customers and our business model. And again, I was fortunate enough to have quite a few good mentors, and was kind of shifted over and was targeted to take over the business operations for the utility down there.
How big of I mean, how many customers do you have in Lowell versus how many did you have where you were previously?
Yeah, so I was at the community we were in was a little bigger footprint. Lowell serves electric. We serve about 3,200 electric meters.
Okay.
So we serve all of the city of Lowell, and then we feed into Virgins Township and Lowell Township a little bit. And we're about $10 million in revenue. The utility I came from in Tennessee was a little bit bigger. We served about 22,000 electric customers, but we also had a water system and a wastewater system that we operated. And in total, down there, we were about a $50 million a year company. So it gave me a lot of exposure. Also, during that time, I was fortunate enough to go back to school, formal education, and completed my master's, got my MBA while I was there. But more than anything, that's kind of the formal training, the formal or the academic side of the training. More than anything, I've had some really good mentors, had the opportunity to learn from a lot of very smart people, and it's still a continuous education.
Oh, sure.
I'll learn something tomorrow at work, and then the next day.
Because stuff is changing all the time, right?
It's constant. And I'm very fortunate that in Michigan, there's a lot of very experienced leaders in the public power world, some very some people that are held in very high regard, and I have the opportunity to learn from them. So why reinvent the wheel when you've got great business partners that you can learn from? So I'd say it's a continuous effort, but I do have some formal academic background, I guess, that
Good for you.
Rounds out some things. But on-the-job training and continuous education is really where it's at, because things will change, as you mentioned. Things will change tomorrow, and they'll change again next week, and give it a year, they'll change, and it's a constantly evolving industry, and we just have to stay on top of it.
I understand that the most popular question people ask you is, where the heck does Lowell Light Power get the electricity that we all enjoy?
And that's a great question. I get that. That is by far the most common question. And most of the people that ask me remember walking by our office on Broadway and hearing the diesel engines roaring, and that's where they know that their power came from. Since then, things have changed. We don't produce very much energy locally within our footprint anymore. We are 127 years old, so our power supply has very much gone through quite a few evolutions. I love our history. I've dug quite a bit into our history, and it started with building a dam on the Flat River, and then adding some diesel engines, a 600 horsepower diesel engine and an 800 horsepower diesel engine, and everything looks very different these days. We still have the capability to produce some electricity locally. We own 2 combustion turbines, which are essentially jet engines strapped to some concrete. Attach a generator to them and make a lot of power. They're not really energy producing. They're really more there for emergency grid support.
I was just going to say that's for an emergency situation, right?
It's very much for emergency. We don't operate them for energy purposes very often, but they're important to have. They're an important resource in our mix. Nowadays, our power supply is a very diverse set of resources, and it really all starts with a key critical partnership we have is with an agency called the Michigan Public Power Agency, MPPA. They are essentially our partner in our power supply. My predecessor, Steve Donkersloot, left the position at Light and Power and took an executive team role there at MPPA, and we say he continues to serve the Lowell community through indirectly, and he is he really did a great job teeing things up for me, and he's really doing an amazing job with MPPA, and MPPA does an amazing job. But overall, our power supply comes from a diverse set of resources all over the state. We actually get about half of our energy right now from a couple coal plants. But as I mentioned, our power supply has very much gone through a lot of evolutions over the years, and here in the next 3 years, we'll actually cease all coal operations. We are set we're part owners in a facility out in West Olive that's scheduled to be decommissioned next year. And we're also part owners in a coal plant over on the east side that'll actually be converted to a natural gas plant in 2026 and 2027. So those are two big resources right now. And in addition to that, we are investors and owners, part owners in a natural gas plant up in Kalkaska. We actually are part owners in a natural gas plant in Ohio. And then we have a smattering of different renewable deals where we get power from landfill gas, where they capture the methane that's being produced, and then run it through a generator, and it produces power. And then we also participate in a few different solar projects and a wind project in the Thumb. So right now our power is very much coming from a diverse set of resources located all over the state.
That's what we call the grid.
The grid. And that's grid. And usually the next question I get is, well, how do you get the power here?
That's why you have those trucks, right?
Yes.
You go and pick it up, and sorry,
we hire that out. But it is. You mentioned it's a giant grid, and the best analogy that I have, that is not a great analogy, but if you look at the grid and our power supply kind of as a vast network of banks.
Okay.
You make a deposit in a bank, you don't get that same dollar bill that you put in out. You get a dollar with equivalent of value. So all of our resources, the generation resources, are dumping kilowatt hours into the grid. So they're making deposits into the grid, and at any given moment we're making withdrawals from that grid to meet our local need. Where that analogy really falls apart is we have to do it 8,760 hours of the year. We have to balance our supply and demand hourly every single hour of the year. So obviously that creates a lot of tracking, a lot of deposits, and a lot of withdrawals.
Sure.
And it really comes out to a series of very intricate and complicated financial transactions. It's very much a market for power, and we're active participants in it. MPPA plays a vital role in that. MPPA represents 22 of the 40 public power companies in Michigan, so we all pool our resources together essentially. And
like a buying group or something,
it's
right?
essentially, MPPA was formed essentially to leverage economies of scale with these smaller municipal power companies, so that we had the ability to invest in large power plants. And MPPA is the one that interfaces with the market on our behalf. So MPPA, on an hourly basis, we forecast our need, then we match up our resources to meet that need, and on an hourly basis we are constantly balancing our checkbook.
So you're working 24 hours a day, Charlie? Is that what you're telling me?
No. I'm always working.
Yeah.
No. A lot of this stuff is very much technology driven,
Sure.
and there's processes in place to make it as efficient as possible, because it's obviously a very, very complicated series of transactions that ultimately meets our needs, but we don't track the electrons that we put onto the grid and then make sure we pull those off. We're pretty much, like I said, just making a lot of deposits and at the same time making withdrawals, and but our power supply really comes from a pretty big geographic footprint.
Okay. You mentioned one of my favorite words, renewable. Renewable/green energy. What's Lowell got in place, Lowell Light Power have in place in terms of green energy right now?
Yeah, so right now, obviously, for one, renewable, green energy, clean energy has very much been a big primary topic of focus topic for us. Late 2023, there was some pretty significant legislation. Those mandates say that we need to be 50% renewable by 2030. 60% renewable by 2035. But on top of that, that's just the renewable piece. There's also a clean energy piece, and we have to be 80% clean by 2035 and then 100% clean by 2040. Right now, we participate in quite a few renewable projects. As I mentioned, our partnership with MPPA. MPPA has very much done quite a bit of, or MPPA has been very aggressive in securing opportunities for its members, because every community also has different renewable goals.
Sure.
MPPA is representing 22 communities. Every community has its own local flair, and that's one of the great things about public power is our board makes the decisions for our customers, and all of our board members reside in the city of Lowell. So we make decisions that are based on what's best for us. You go to another community, they may have a different idea of what's best for their community. So MPPA has been managing diverse wants and needs of different communities, which has ultimately put us in a position to have the opportunity to invest quite heavily in renewables. We currently, like I mentioned, we receive power from renewable natural gas or landfill gas. We participate in a large wind farm that's located in the Thumb, and then currently we receive power, or we have contracts to receive power from 3 different solar farms located geographically in different locations. We have some in Calhoun County, some in Shiawassee County, and we're always looking to add and support that. Right now, about 27% of our energy needs come from our renewable resources.
And you do have a program that some of us, if we're so inclined, can pay slightly more for the privilege, the ability to say, hey, my house is powered by renewables.
Absolutely. We have it's called a VGP, which
voluntary
green pricing.
Okay.
So again, we're really good at acronyms in the electric industry, but yeah, it's essentially a program where you participate. I hope I'm not sharing your secrets. Yeah, I hope you're not sharing your secrets. But you pay a penny more a kilowatt hour.
Which still leaves us way under that other utility company that I won't say their name.
We have a little bit of rate room. We have a little headspace on our rates when it comes to them. But yeah, you volunteer to pay a penny more. And what I think is important, in because you can't track what electrons you're actually consuming, it's important for people to understand that how that claim is made.
Right.
You know, it's what is it? And when a kilowatt hour is produced from a renewable resource, you really split the value of it into the value of the energy itself and then also the green attribute of it. And that green attribute is valuable. There are customers who, value driven, would want to choose and are willing to pay slightly more to have their energy come from a renewable resource. And we can say without any doubt that there is an audit trail that we can prove that we are receiving the power that we say we're selling to our VGP or our voluntary green pricing customers. So it truly is an auditable trail, and you are the only person who can claim the renewable kilowatt hours that you are purchasing. So it's not just to tack a penny on and
right.
feel good. It truly is meaningful all the way back to the source of generation, and there's a paper audit trail that we could ultimately prove out.
As long as we're talking about my business, that's why I signed up for it, because when Steve explained it to me and I saw how you guys run your ship over there, I thought, these guys aren't selling me a pie in the sky. This is a for real thing. 2023 has been pretty good for Lowell Light Power. How many pieces of recognition, awards, you guys are getting your back slapped all the time?
Yeah, we try to stay humble about it. We'll start with that.
Let's brag.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
We'll brag a little
Let
bit.
Let it loose.
A couple things. We were recognized for our reliability this year.
Compared to that other utility.
And even compared to other public power utilities, the award that we receive, or the recognition we receive, puts us in the top quartile of public power companies in the country. And public power companies tend to have the highest standard of reliability, or the highest reliability delivered to their customers. So we're top quartile in public power, and public power tends to be the leading format from or structure for reliability. So that we started off our year that way, and that's something we take a lot of pride in. It's probably the single most referenced attribute of the utility. If I talk to anybody, it's my lights never go out.
Right.
And that's great to hear, because that's what we want. That's the business we're in. The saying used to be power is cheap, reliability is expensive. I like to think we're able to do both.
Well, wasn't one of your awards based on a survey taken from your customers?
Yes. So that's this two major awards that we're very proud of this year. First was the Customer Satisfaction Award. We were one of two public power utilities in the country to receive the highest honor associated with this, and we're a member of the American Public Power Association. It's essentially our national trade association, and they partnered with a company called Great Blue Research, and this survey was made available to public power companies throughout the country. Obviously not all of them participated, but a big handful did, and to be one of two that came out with the highest recognition is a tremendous honor for us, because for one, you hit the nail on the head. It was our customers. We are in the business of serving our customers. That's what we're here for. We serve the community. We're part of the community we serve. We sent it out, had great response. 95% average positive feedback is what it took. And what I think so meaningful about that award is it looked at our communications with our customers, looked at reliability, restoration, value of the product for the price that you pay, and really overall satisfaction. So it touched on a lot of the different pieces that we aim to deliver to our customers. And
I think I need to jump in here because you said the keyword price to pay. It's important to remind Lowell Light and Power customers we're generally how much below?
Oh, this is my favorite thing to talk about. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This is fun to talk about. So on an annual basis, we do a benchmarking against our nearest competitor and surrounding utility. At the residential level, we sit about 25% cheaper than our competition, and what I think is probably more meaningful than that is across all of our rate classes, all of our customers, there's over $1 million a year in rate savings. That's $1 million a year that stays in our customers' pockets compared to if they were served by a different company, which is great. Money is great. Reliability is king, though. Our customers are 5 times less likely to experience an outage than the neighboring utility, and if they do experience an outage, restoration times are faster.
Yeah, I used to live 10 miles out of town on 52nd Street, and I'd go to that website, your power should be restored, maybe. Anyway, speaking of money, another thing people might not know is how much Lowell Light and Power puts back into the city coffers, which provides our park services, our road plowing, all the great stuff the DPW help pays for our police department. How much money goes average?
Yeah, and I think the first thing to highlight here is what an amazing partnership we have with the city. We are part of the city. We operate slightly independent. We have an independent board, but we work closely with the city, and they're a great partnership. Part of that partnership is what you're referring to as our pilot, or payment in lieu of taxes. We take a percentage of our sales and ultimately transfer those funds back over to the general fund for Mike Burns and the city. But this year we budgeted about $465,000. So on an average, usually it's right around that $450,000 mark, but it's based on a percentage of our revenue. So as we grow, that support to the general fund grows as well. So it's one of the many great aspects of public power is it's all this. It's the interconnection with the communities that we serve, and part of that's from a community support standpoint. Part of that's a local government support, financial support, and that pilot program. Ultimately, if we weren't there, the city still has that need.
Sure. And
they'd have to find, I can't speak for their finances, but I think you might have done a podcast recently that you touched on that. So, but yeah, it really is a great program. happy to support the city, and we really look at everything that we do with the city as a partnership, and that's highlighted in a lot of different areas. But one of the interesting areas where that partnership was really highlighted was following the storms in August. Storms in August were some of the worst storms we've been hit with in quite a while. We had some of the longest power outages. The longest power outages since I've come to Lowell, but talking with our distribution manager, Ryan Teachworth, it's the worst storm that he's seen since he's been here, and he's been here, I believe, 8 years now. So you can call it a once-in-a-decade type of event.
Sure.
We worked a few days, got power restored, came back in on Monday, and partnered with the city and the DPW to do brush cleanup for the community. We spent about a week just helping DPW. We've got some good equipment. They've got some good equipment. We all work great together, and ultimately, at the end of the day, the community wins because we were able to turn a pretty tough situation and do what we could to fill the gap for the residents here in Lowell. So,
and I would sum it up by saying, for those of us lucky enough to be Lowell Light and Power customers, it was a blip as opposed to a serious speed bump in the road. You got any new fun things planned for Lowell? Is there something we should be aware of?
Always something fun. Why not? No, really a lot of our focus, visible focus over the last year, and will be continue to be a very visible focus moving forward, is the attention that we're paying to the east side of town. Right now, it's the oldest section of our distribution system. We are currently working through plans to essentially rebuild the vast majority of the infrastructure over on the east side of town. If you drive down Jackson Street, North Street, Monroe Street, you'll see a lot of very new-looking poles. That's because they were all put there last year. But it's kind of the first step in a multi-year project to really bring some of the infrastructure on that side of town up, improve just the reliability, improve the infrastructure. And then another piece of it is, right now, the entire east side of this, our distribution system, so everything east of the Flat River and north of the Grand River, is fed by a single set of cables that go under the Flat River. Obviously, we like to have redundancy. We like to have backup plans. So we're actually in the middle.
You're going to run another one under the river?
We're going to run the wire's ordered. We're running a redundant line under the Grand River this time, down by the Dependable Gas property. A few years ago,
haven't I seen the plastic pipes sticking out of the ground?
Probably.
Isn't that's
okay? That's marking our conduit.
Okay.
But probably 5 years ago, Steve Donkersloot had the opportunity to punch an extra bore shot under the Grand River, knowing that one day we'd need it. And we've spent last year and this year working on finalizing those plans, just to put a little financial flair on it. We've been hit pretty hard with inflation, just like everybody else. We're not immune. Just the wire to pull under the river. A few years ago, it was maybe $120,000 expense. We put in the order a few months ago, and it's about $250,000 expense now, and it's almost a year lead time. So the wire's been ordered. It's scheduled to be here later this year, and once it comes in, we're going to be able to pull that circuit under the river and have a fully redundant feed for the entire east side of town, which you couple that with new infrastructure, we're really improving the resiliency of our distribution system over on the east side of town.
Super. I just want to reiterate, folks, not only do we save 25 to 30%, which puts another $1 million for all of us to live on, but the city gets $450,000 a year to go into the general fund to pay for our police and our DPW. I certainly appreciate your time this evening, Charlie. Anything else you want to add before?
It depends on how much time you have. No, I really enjoy what we do. We've got a group. I'd be remiss if I didn't, highlight the team effort at Light and Power.
How many people work there?
We have a total of 18 people plus a board of 5. That includes full-time, part-time, but we have a great team. mention awards. Didn't touch on, but tomorrow. Well, I say tomorrow. I don't in podcast world. I don't know when this is going to go out. So tomorrow's a relative term. But as of right now, tomorrow is the chamber gathering, and I'll see you there. And we've been recognized as the nonprofit spotlight of the year. And that award, I think, is very meaningful to us because I talk about a team effort.
Sure.
I think what we've done to be recognized for this really is a result of a board that is supportive and has a vision for the utility, and then everybody that works at Light and Power is very much committed to our mission. And it's not every day you get to lead a group of people that are just fantastic individuals.
Well, I'm a relative newcomer to Lowell. We've been around for 23 years. I can't tell you, I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Lowell Light and Power. And on the way here this evening, I came up with a great little phrase. There's only two kinds of people in the world. People who are Lowell Light and Power customers and people who wish they were Lowell Light and Power customers.
You know, that's a tremendous compliment. we thank, we really thank the community. It comes down to, we've got a great community support. Our employees are very committed to what it is that we do, and makes my job a whole lot easier. The people are usually the biggest challenge, and we have a great team, start to finish, top to bottom, doesn't matter. So to have the opportunity to end on that note, I think is perfect.
All right. Hey, keep doing what you're doing. We sure appreciate you. Thanks a lot, Charlie.
Awesome. Thank you, Cliff.